Hey, thanks for joining me on another episode of Ask Angela. I'm Angela. Today I want to talk about condos versus co-ops. What are some of the things you guys should be looking out for? What are some of the things you should know and understand when you say, yep, don't want a house. I'm okay with being in a multi-unit building. I don't have to cut the grass and exactly what I need. So what is a condo? What is a co-op? Let's talk about it. A lot of people confuse condos with co-ops and vice versa. They are similar, but they have many differences. Let's go into it. When you own a condo, you own a piece of property the same way you would own a house, you own a condo. When you purchase into a co-op, you are not purchasing a unit, you're purchasing shares. So for example, you buy a condo, that unit is yours. You can do things to the unit. You can sell the unit with no issue. Or when you purchase shares in a co-op, you're purchasing shares in a building. And the shares allow you to occupy the unit that the shares are for. But that's kind of as far as it goes. So it's almost like you owning an apartment, but not. That's a major difference between condo and co-ops. That's one of the big ones. One of the things you want to keep in mind as far as co-ops go are board approval is required for the purchase. So whether you're the one purchasing or you're the one that's selling a co-op, you have to go to the board in order to get approval for that buyer. And sometimes it becomes frustrating to the seller when the board declines their buyer. It can be as frustrating for the buyer, of course, but if, the buyer can always find another unit, right? But for the seller, when they found the buyer and everything seems to be in order and the board says no, the answer is no, and that's all to it. Another thing you want to remember with co-ops, financing is not as easy with co-ops as it is with a condo. A lot of times the lenders will require you to put down a higher down payment. A lot of co-ops require 20% down. That's usually the minimum. Of course, there's always an exception to the rule, but for the most part, you're looking at a higher down payment. With that being said, co-ops are also less expensive. So they're less expensive, but they require a higher down payment. And you have to have, as I said, board approval. So that's the key thing that you want to think about and remember if you decide co-ops are for you. All right, so what about condos, right? So as I said a little bit earlier, a couple of minutes ago, condos are ownership of an actual property. You do get to do things to the condo. There is no board approval. If you're buying, the seller can sell it to you, right? If you're selling, you can sell it to whoever you like, as long as, of course, you get the price that you want, right? In terms of financing for a condo is very similar to financing for a house. They're practically one and the same. And that is because it's ownership of a property versus shares. So that, again, that's the major difference between the two. Again, condos can be in a building, or it can just be multi-units attached in some sort of structure. But financing, as I said, is a lot easier. With that being said, however, condos tend to be a little bit more expensive than co-ops, probably because of the flexibility, right? Because you own it and you do get to do things to it, and you pay for that. So there's another difference with condos versus co-ops. Again, they're not all the differences, but those are some of the major differences you want to think about when you say, I think I want to buy a condo or a co-op. Understand they're not one and the same. Understand the differences, and then off you go. So I want to thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Angela. Like the video, follow my channel, and like always, send in your questions. I'd be glad to answer them. It's helpful for me to put content together, so I appreciate it. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms. Feel free to send me an email as well. Until then, I'd like to say, be awesome, be well, be great.